Hey everybody, it's Matt Mayoko. I'm going to start off with some numbers here today on this video, and I'm not a big numbers guy. And we can debate whether wins and losses is a quarterback stat, but let's face it, the successful quarterbacks play for winning teams, and so that's the whole idea. In his regular season career, the 49ers with Brock Purdy as quarterback, the 49ers are 23 and 13. This past season, 2024, the 49ers were 6 and 9 with Brock Purdy as the quarterback. In the postseason, 49ers are 4 and 2 with Brock Purdy as a quarterback. And that, of course, includes the game at Philadelphia where he sustained the elbow injury. But I'm here to tell you that as the offseason has started for the 49ers, chalk up a couple of big wins for Brock Purdy to start this offseason because I don't think the first 3 days could have gone any better for him, and I will explain. But first, thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Love to hear your views on this, but we're just going to start off with this. The 49ers on Wednesday basically left themselves no wiggle room. There was no negotiations. There was no, oh, let's set this up to make it difficult for Brock Purdy to get the contract that he desires or his representation. Let's not. They were just put their all their cards on the table in stating that unequivocally Brock Purdy is the 49ers quarterback for the future. He has now been with the team for 3 full seasons, basically 2.5 years as a starting quarterback. And I think the first really significant situation with Brock happened, what would it have been, 2 years ago, right around this time, 2 years ago, maybe a little bit deeper into the offseason. But remember, the 49ers made the huge commitment to Trey Lance to trade up to number 3 overall to select him. Trey Lance was not the starter to open his rookie season, but at the end of that first year, he was the starter. And the 49ers put all their eggs in that Trey Lance basket. And then he got injured early that season. Jimmy Garoppolo, who had remained on the team, took over as the quarterback. And then once Brock Purdy got on the field, December 4th, 2022 is when Brock Purdy made his debut when Jimmy Garoppolo was injured. And I really think from that point forward, there was no question in Kyle Shanahan's mind that Brock Purdy would be the quarterback. So much so that in the offseason, even when Purdy had the elbow situation going on, Shanahan told Trey Lance that he would not be the starter, that it was Brock Purdy's job as long as he was healthy. And Trey Lance was not happy at all about that. He didn't understand, and then of course we know what happens. He wanted an opportunity to compete. That competition really never took place. It was pretty clear at that off season, despite what some other people were saying, but that Sam Darnold was going to be the backup. Um, Looked better on the practice field, had the experience and everything else. And so the 49ers sent Trey Lance to the Dallas Cowboys. So there's really never been any question in his first full season as a starter. Brock Purdy had, a record-breaking season for the 49ers, and they went on to the Super Bowl. You know the story. They twice took the lead in the fourth quarter, once took the lead in overtime. I guess the only thing you could say about what Brock Purdy did not do in that game was they didn't finish those drives with touchdowns. And of course, they didn't win it because the Kansas City Chiefs won in overtime. But, just to go back to the Super Bowl, it's all about winning the Super Bowl, of course. 49ers have had some good teams in the past. What, 4 of the past 5 seasons leading into this one? They made the deep playoff runs, but they didn't get the job done. But, when you look at where the team is going, what the future is, Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt in the minds of the people who are closest to the situation that the 49ers can easily win a Super Bowl. I should say easily because they haven't won a Super Bowl since what, January of 1995, but that Brock Purdy is capable of winning a Super Bowl. It was oh so close last year, and I know there are no bonus points for oh so close, but what Kyle Shanahan said is that Brock has been a stud. He's a guy I've got a lot of confidence in just as a human, but it starts with what he's done on the field these last 2.5 years, and he's capable of winning a Super Bowl. We almost just did it, and I know he's capable of getting the 49ers a Super Bowl in the future. So, um, as I talked about, the way this offseason starts is that now that Purdy's 3 years in on his rookie contract, the sides are allowed to renegotiate his deal. And that's part of the CBA. A draft pick cannot have his contract touched until he plays the final game of his third NFL season. So Purdy made $2.6 million combined over his first 3 years in the NFL. Obviously, um, less than $1 million a year. And when you talk about 9 quarterbacks in the NFL have average per year salaries of $51 million or more, led by Dak Prescott's 60 million a year. That is something that obviously the 49ers want to make right, that Brock Purdy and his representation want to see him being paid on par with what he deserves as far as the NFL landscape as a whole. And I'm sure if these contract negotiations were starting a year ago as opposed to now, I mean, it would be universal. Nobody would even say, no one would hesitate toward um, there being any thought given to not paying him top dollar. But I think in a lot of ways, seeing him through this very trying season where so many things went wrong on the field, off the field, you name it, I think maybe that kind of strengthens the decision makers' resolve in order to get Brock Purdy under contract and kind of um, emphasizing or justifying in their mind that he is the guy for the future. And what Kyle Shanahan had to say, um, basically along those lines, he said, what we know about Brock is that he's our guy. We have interest in Brock being here a long, long time. We could never string games where we were all together. And through that, he continued to lead. He continued to play at a high level. So we have every interest in him being around. Well, I think that, that's pretty obvious that the 49ers, I mean, when you look around the NFL, there's so many teams that just can't find their quarterback. And, it's a coach killer. I mean, look at pretty much all the teams that have already fired coaches. Well, some, you know, New England probably has their quarterback. Jacksonville has their quarterback. Um, but, a lot of the other teams just, they can't get that part of the equation right. So um, I think the first signal with Purdy, and well, let's go back a step. Brock Purdy turned 25 on December 27th. And so 25 years old, what we've seen from Brock Purdy through 2.5 years is a guy who's a very solid quarterback, uh, generally good decision maker, very accurate, checks all the boxes. And like I said, had that 113 passer rating last season in 2023. The average yards per attempt were way up there. Um, Completion percentage, set the franchise record for yards passing in a single season, all that. And typically, I think if you look around the NFL, and I think this is probably more anecdotal than anything else, but it seems like quarterbacks don't hit their peak until you get closer to 30 years old. Somewhere right now he's 25. Let's just say somewhere in that 26, 27 to 30, 31, 32 range where quarterbacks really hit their stride. The thing that Brock Purdy added to his game this year was the element of running, where he gained more yards rushing and more first downs rushing, more touchdowns rushing, and all that. When I talked about how he won the first few days of the offseason, on Monday when he met with the media, he was asked a lot about his contract and where things go with that, and he did express a desire to get that contract situation worked out sooner rather than later. And that shouldn't be a surprise because we all saw what the 49ers dealt with as far as distractions in last offseason with Brandon Ayuk and Trent Williams. Well, guess what? Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams, they're not the quarterback. It's a whole new level of distraction if there's any contract issues with the quarterback. So Purdy wants to get this thing done. I don't think his side will just grind and grind and grind for every last penny that they can get. But I do think that he will get fairly compensated, top of the market. And when you look at it, the contracts that I talked about, where Dak Prescott's 60 million a year. This year, the NFL salary cap was $255 million per team. Next year, teams are working under the premise that it's going to the salary cap's going to rise by at least 10 million, maybe 20 million, maybe more than that for next year. So that's what we're talking about as far as the percentage of the salary cap rising. So basically 60 million per year on a contract this year is theoretically less than 60 million as far as the percentage of the cap per team. That's theoretically less than, not theoretically, it's actually less than percentage wise what Dak Prescott signed. But anyway, on Monday, what Brock Purdy said was, I'm not really sure what it's all going to look like or entail, but I know that I'm the guy for this organization and I can do what it takes to help lead us to where we want to go. That's, those are pretty strong words from Brock Purdy considering his personality. So it would certainly lead you to believe, it would certainly lead me to believe that he had just had that same conversation with Kyle Shanahan, maybe with John Lynch as well, where it was kind of emphasized to him that he was the guy for the future. Because 2 days later, that's basically what Lynch and Shanahan had to say. And when you hear what Kyle Shanahan had to say, a guy who's notoriously difficult on quarterbacks, Shanahan said, I love these 3 years with Brock. I plan on being with Brock here the whole time I'm here. So next year will be Kyle Shanahan's ninth NFL season as head coach of the 49ers. He is really closing in on Bill Walsh's record for most years as head coach. And so that is a big time commitment where I don't think he has said that in the past about anybody, certainly not a quarterback. So again, I plan on being with Brock here the whole time I'm here. Um, so there you have it. I mean, I think Brock Purdy at 25 years old, Kyle Shanahan entering his ninth season in the NFL. Uh, for the longest time, Kyle Shanahan wanted Kirk Cousins as his quarterback, and now that has clearly turned the page on that, and now it's all about Brock Purdy. 49ers still have to figure out some things with the backup quarterback situation. I have said that I wouldn't be shocked if Kirk Cousins ever comes to the 49ers as a backup, but I still kind of think that his price tag will be too high, even to enter a situation as a backup. Another thing that Shanahan said about just the timing of it, because now that the offseason is upon us, they have their offseason mapped up as far as how long the guys get away, the players get away, when they come back for phase one of the offseason program. And what Shanahan said was, when I look at a calendar now and realize we have 14 weeks until we need to get back, I expect everyone to be ready to go and excited to really get this thing going and play some football. And that starts with Brock. Brock is the leader of our team. So there you have it, folks. 14 weeks. That is the time frame that Shanahan laid out there. I know he doesn't like to be held to absolutes, but 14 weeks is the time frame where Kyle Shanahan expects something to get done with Brock Purdy that will keep him under contract to the 49ers for the long term. Okay, I started with numbers. Like I said, not a big numbers guy. I think that just feel how things look, how people talk about other people. To me, that's nobody knows more about individuals than their coworkers. And when you hear the coaching staff, when you hear his teammates talk about Brock Purdy in a certain way, that it, to me, is ultra convincing. And then also getting to know somebody, talking to them, hearing their process and everything else. So that's probably the main reason that you get, if you're around the team, you get such a feel for the confidence that everybody has in Brock Purdy. But I just want to end with this, and I'm not going to throw the numbers out there because I really don't know what the numbers mean. But ESPN back in 2011 came up with this new way of rating quarterbacks. And the whole idea was to replace the NFL passer rating system because the passer rating system that the NFL uses that I cited earlier with Brock Purdy at the 113, that is solely that passer rating. So ESPN devised this new metric considered or called QBR that it basically accounts for everything a quarterback does except for handing the ball off. So it's quarterback runs, sacks, fumbles, penalties, uh, game circumstances, down and distance, field position, all that, in addition to the other stuff, the completion percentage, the passing yards, touchdowns, interceptions, all that. So total QBR is the stat. And so Brock Purdy ranked seventh. And am I surprised at that? I guess I am. But the six ahead of Brock Purdy, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels, Jordan Love, Jared Goff, and then Brock Purdy, number seven. Guess who number eight is? Patrick Mahomes. So when you look at the top six, Jackson, Allen, Burrow, Daniels, Love, and Goff, what do those six have in common, along with Brock Purdy? They haven't won a Super Bowl. Maybe one of them will this season. And then number eight, Patrick Mahomes. He's won plenty of Super Bowls. So anyway, that's why what Brock Purdy had to say, which foreshadowed 2 days before what Shanahan would say and what John Lynch would say about Brock Purdy and the 49ers and the future of the team's quarterback position. That's why I consider Brock Purdy the big winner of the week.